I'd be lying if I told you I knew what was going on in the news today. But whatever it is, we'll figure it out together. This is the Benjamin Dixon Show, joined by some of the Progressive Army. Let's do this.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
we are now about to witness the truth.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. I didn't think I was going to make it tonight, but I did make it, and we started late. I'd be lying if I told you I knew what was going on in the news, other than the usual. I know it's the Fox News debate. I know Donald Trump and Mike Huckabee and Rick Santorum are doing something on CNN and MSNBC. I also know that I don't care what they're doing. I'm being joined by some of the members of the Progressive Army. They'll be staggering in as they all get, apparently we all work late. I worked late tonight. I'm lying. It wasn't work. We had a get together at my job. And so I hadn't done anything other than my show for the last 3 or 4 months. So I decided to go do something with my job and have a few bourbons and have a good time. But that's not the point. The point is we're here and we have something to talk about. So what I've asked on our Progressive Army Hangouts, I've asked everyone to bring an article that's relevant so that we can discuss it, dissect it, and pull it apart for the purposes of progressivism, right? So that's what we're doing tonight. It's just going to be a hangout. Right now, I'm joined by one of the Progressive Army, PJ. David has restarted his computer. Michael will be coming later on. We may be joined by JP Rankin later on, but our phone lines are open as usual, 857-600-0518. I do want to talk about something that kind of bothers me a little bit, and I'm only going to talk for a few minutes, and I'm going to pass it over to the guys. I'm only going to do a few minutes, but I'm going to let everyone else talk. Something that bothers me is this notion that we're supposed to play nice during the primaries. The primaries are here for us to flesh out our differences, and I would be lying, disingenuous, and part of the establishment, even though I don't have establishment money, if I did not tell you I have serious problems with Hillary Clinton, what she stands for, the status quo. Now, I am not burning or bust. That's not me. That's not my job. That's not who I am. I'm not telling you not to be that. I'm not telling you to do anything. What I am saying is that I have legitimate problems with Hillary Clinton. I also have more beef with conservatism than I do Hillary Clinton, but that's not the conversation right now. The conversation is, who do I think is going to be best? Right now, the person that's going to be best is Bernie Sanders. And so this idea that, I shouldn't speak out about it because, I'm quasi media. I'm not really media. I'm not a journalist. I'm a commentator. I have opinions. I have very well thought out opinions, and my job is to give it. So if, I know I have Hillary supporters who listen and they get tired of me talking about Hillary, but if I ever lie on Hillary Clinton, first of all, I think my Progressive Army and other people will call me out on it. Number one. Number two, I'll call myself out. But number three, I will give you the red carpet to come on my show and call me out for if I ever lie about Hillary Clinton. The problem is that the truth hurts. And I do have a legitimate qualm with what Hillary Clinton stands for, even more so than what she did in the past. I have a big problem with what she's doing now. And it may be that my problem isn't as much with Hillary as it is with people who are manipulating their values to fit Hillary. It's not a matter of purism I don't know what purism is. I'm 4 bourbons in. It's not a matter of a litmus test. It's a matter of there are things that we stand for. And if they don't represent it, then we should speak out against it. There's the other thing I have a problem with. Hillary Clinton is really, and I'm not going to say Hillary Clinton directly, but Hillary Clinton by virtue of her surrogates. They are legitimately waging a war on Bernie Sanders. they have forwarded the idea that he's a racist, a homophobe, a xenophobe, not a xenophobe, but a racist, a homophobe, and a misogynist, right? They're going full out against Bernie Sanders. And people then turn to get sensitive when we call out Hillary Clinton with the same intensity, but with facts. It doesn't work like that. I don't let conservatives get away with that. Conservatives don't get to destroy the opposition, which are progressives, and then get to be sensitive when we call them out. It doesn't work like that. Likewise, if you are in this and you are legitimately fighting and you are calling out Bernie Sanders with facts, or you're calling him out with rhetoric and propaganda, then you sure as hell need to be prepared for people to do likewise. Very simply put, you don't get to talk trash and not have people talk trash back to you. That's the second thing that bothers me about everything right now. The third thing that bothers me is that if you watched MSNBC and you saw, I forgot her first name, her last name is McGee, and she's from Sonos or whatever. She's from some liberal-leaning think tank, and she's African American. And if you just look across mainstream media, you look at Jonathan Capehart of the Washington Post, you look at all of these different voices that are people of color who are giving this impression that black people are just in the tank with Hillary Clinton, one, and then two, that Bernie Sanders, as the McGee woman said on MSNBC, is going after the angry white men, compared to Hillary Clinton going for the Obama coalition. The fact that there are so many black political and media elite who are so in bed with Hillary Clinton that they are forwarding false narratives against Bernie Sanders, to the detriment of the truth and to the detriment of a fair and balanced conversation, I must likewise bring the same level of opposition, not just for the sake of opposition, but for the sake of you're not telling the whole story. You're painting these daisies in the field version of Hillary Clinton, and you're doing it by trying to vilify Bernie Sanders. Somebody has to bring the counter narrative because you're not telling the whole story. If the media would do their job and just give the facts without making it, without being completely biased in one direction, which is the establishment, then it wouldn't be necessary for me to go full-throated against Hillary Clinton. But because particularly black political and media elite are so in bed with Hillary Clinton, somebody has to actually voice the opposition to this false narrative that Bernie Sanders has a race problem, which he doesn't, and that Bernie Sanders is for white people, which he isn't. So all day, it was, I think at least 6 different people hit me up today because they're like, Ben, you know, we like your show and we like Bernie Sanders, and Ben, you're a really smart dude, but do you have to go on Hillary Clinton so hard? Yes, I do. And the reason I have to is because what she stands for, I feel, is problematic. Now, if you ask me if I think Ted Cruz is more problematic, that's entirely a different conversation that we don't even have to have right now. It's not even a relevant conversation to today. Right now, the conversation is between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. Who do I think is best? I've already told you who I think is best. So these are the primaries. This is the purpose of the primaries. Everybody has their platform. Everybody has their followers. Everyone is going to promote the person they think is best, and that's the way it should be. I don't think that we should be trying to silence people. I do think that we should call out bull when we see bull, and when we see hit pieces, like today was the day of hit pieces against Bernie Sanders from establishment players. You know, we have the right to call that out. And so don't get sensitive. Don't feel like, you know, I do care how you feel, but I don't care how you feel. The point is, this is what primaries are for. And if you ever catch me in a lie, you can call me on that lie. You can come on my show and I will give you the platform. If I ever tell a lie about Hillary Clinton, the problem is I've been telling the truth. And I think that's what bothers people more than anything else, is that we're telling the truth. All right, folks. 857-600-0518. That's my opening rant, and that's all I have to say tonight, pretty much. I'm going to throw the microphone over to 2 of the Progressive Army. We're running low. Normally we have like 10 people in the room. What's going on, fellas?
Hey Ben, it's PJ. How's it going, guys? I actually have a question for you. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loudly and clearly. What's on your mind?
Awesome. Okay, so this might be the first tussle. I don't know. It might just be me and my 2 shots of vodka, 50 proof, misreading you. But you said just now that you're looking for someone to counter the narrative, the pro-Hillary narrative, the anti-Sanders narrative. Is that correct? That's what you sort of you're pining for right now.
Well, what I'm saying is that there are in the mainstream media, and I hate to use that word because it's overused by Fox News, but in the establishment media, I would say they're about 90% in bed with Hillary Clinton. And so, yeah,
Okay.
there needs to be more mainstream voices that are giving at least an unbiased position of
Okay.
facts. Go for
All
it.
right, cool. So let me ask you, who do you have in mind? And I'm only saying this in direct response to you saying, I believe yesterday, or at least the day of the forum, for the layman, the Commonwealth Sanders supporters to stand down. That's explicitly what you said
Mhm.
a day or two ago. So I want to know, if not the common folk, if not the grassroots in particular, and I might be mischaracterizing that,
Mhm.
who, if anyone, would you have in mind to support Bernie Sanders to the mainstream media,
I
please?
think you may have. I think you missed, or I did not hear the complete picture from the other day. PJ is like one of the few people I actually give room to push back like this. PJ, this is my show. All right, but good question, and I want to make sure no one else misunderstood me. In particular, I'm not talking to any type of layman. I think everyone is qualified to argue the stuff that they're qualified to argue over. So in my world, there's no such thing as a layman. Everyone has their particular expertise. What I am saying is that there is a nefarious rhetorical technique, and I'm choosing those words very specifically for a reason. There's a really negative rhetorical technique that is being used against anyone who is not black, saying something either positive about Bernie Sanders' civil rights history or dare challenging anyone who's black. I don't think for a second that it is true that white people or people who are not black don't have anything substantive to say about Bernie Sanders' civil rights history or a valid critique of some Black Lives Matter. What I am saying is that it is such a manipulative technique that is being played right now that it is in the strategic best interest that those voices don't even engage some of the Black Lives Matter people, because it is always going to be turned on you, because that is the political manipulative rhetorical game that they have crafted out, particularly against Bernie Sanders supporters. So let's just make it really clear. White people who say something bad about Black Lives Matter, particularly Bernie Sanders supporters who are white that say something bad about Black Lives Matter, are being manipulated into being these villainous people, no matter how valid what you have to say is. And if we know that's their technique, then we need to beat them at their technique and say, okay, let's not give them anything that's going to hurt Bernie Sanders anymore. What we need to do is find other people who can speak up about it. But to your original question, I'm never would say that the average person needs to stand down to a general conversation. I'm being very specific in that a white person who says something to a black person on Twitter or social media, that is blown out of proportion, particularly with regard to Bernie Sanders, so much so that it's a manipulative game. And I think the best way to beat them at that game is to not engage them.
Okay. In response, I'll concede to the point that the aristocrat vodka I drank made me forget that there was a racial component to what you said.
Mm-hmm.
About that, it was specifically about the Black Lives Matter movement. So
Mm-hmm.
my fault, I forgot. And at the same time, I also want to give you a sort of positive note that something I saw on TYT earlier today was that actress Susan Sarandon actually went on to CNN and endorsed Bernie Sanders. And of course, in the same way that Cuomo fought Mr. Sanders himself on this, the reporter that the reporter that Susan Sarandon was talking to was all about the comebacks and the pushbacks and the retorts.
Mm-hmm.
Saying, well, he's a socialist and raising taxes. Some people would say, that sort of common establishment sort of fight.
Right.
So I just want you to know that there is some support out there And you were right with what you said. So I just want to give that.
Yeah, it's the vodka, man. It's the vodka. You can't come to the show with 2 shots of vodka. I'm the only. Well, I don't know. I think some other people.
I'm about to make it 3 because I'm catching up to your 4.
Let's take this caller real quick. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and/or question?
Benjamin?
Yes, that's me. Hey, how's it going, man?
Good, good. I'm a big fan. I'm really impressed with your integrity.
Thanks, man.
I do want to say something. You're welcome. Something really quick. The thing with Bernie, what they're doing, right? He never needed African American votes in Vermont at 2% of the population,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
But he still, endorsed Jesse Jackson when it was probably a negative for him, not a positive.
That's a good observation.
To me, that speaks volumes. But Caucasians can't talk about it because then, what do they call it? Mansplaining, blacksplaining.
Yeah.
If a Caucasian,
Whitesplaining. Whitesplaining.
They're handicapped, and it's not like we shouldn't have to say that anyway, because informed people should be able to figure that out on their own, right? To say, look at this guy's history. When he did things that would probably in rural America would have been detrimental to re-election, but he did them anyway.
I like that.
Yeah, it's an impressive record, but what impresses me more about him is it's not really the man, like you say, it's the message. He's telling working class Americans, expect more from your government.
Right.
Your government isn't broke. We make our own money, right? And Bernie Sanders has had speeches. A lot of people don't know this. I don't know if you've even seen it. When he talks, he's in conferences with like Joseph Stiglitz, other luminaries in the economics environment, and he's talking about monetary policy for the middle class and the working class.
Right.
It's impressive stuff. If you Google it, you'll find it. I don't know if you've seen these speeches. They were just handled this year. He's had a couple this year. Where he's talking about we need a whole new Bretton Woods, right? I know you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, I do. Bretton Woods, yeah. Nixon, go ahead.
And it blew me away. Well, this is the fiat system, right? When they went off the gold standard. And
pegged the currency to the dollar. Pegged our currency to our own dollar versus the gold standard. Go for it.
And the U.S. dollar being the reserve currency for the world, and he's saying if we're going to do that, we can use money on the American worker, not just on American business, right?
Right.
It's really you have to listen to this speech, and I would recommend other Bernie fans to listen to it.
Do me a favor. Do me a favor. Tweet me the link. Are you on Twitter?
No, I'm not. I'm not actually.
Where if you're on YouTube, where do you exist? I don't. If you're not on Twitter, I don't know where to get up with you.
I know.
Are you? Yeah, put it in the chat room if you can. You may not be able to put the actual link if you're on YouTube. If you're in Spreaker, you could put the link, but put the link somewhere so that I can share it with everyone and let everyone watch those videos. But I want to expound a little bit on what you said and grab this next call. So I really appreciate the call, man.
Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate everything you do. I'm going to become a subscriber on Patreon.
Hey, man, appreciate it. We definitely appreciate that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to take a second out of the ordinary and find this, and thank you for becoming a Patreon. All right. He says something very key here, right? In Vermont, what, 1%, 2% black? I think Boston, I'm in Boston, I think we may at most be 7% black, right? I really don't see a lot of African Americans until Juneteenth in June, of course, Juneteenth. And it is the most beautiful thing. There's like 6,000 black people who who gather at a park, and it's the beautiful-est day, cookouts. We're just having a great time, but then when the winter comes, I don't see any, we're in the Northeast. Bernie Sanders is was in the Northeast with like 1-2% black. He had no need to embrace Jesse Jackson for any political reason whatsoever. And like the caller said, if anything, it was detrimental for him to endorse Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson won Vermont because of Bernie Sanders. So there's a difference between having the lingo, having the relationships, and having the political access to the black community, and actually having valid values that are beneficial to the black community. So I appreciate the caller for that. I don't know if PJ's still here. I see his avatar, but David's in the room. David, how's it going, man?
Sorry, I had to take myself off mute. Going good.
Going good. Awesome. All right, guys, so we're waiting on a few more guys to come in. I've just said my piece. You guys, you should have brought some articles tonight. So tell me about the articles you brought, David, and let's debate it really quickly.
Yeah, mine was from yesterday. I believe his name is LePage. I don't know if I pronounce it right. Paul LePage out of Maine. He's the governor there, and he is recommending asking people to. What's that?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go for it.
He's suggesting that people in Maine carry their guns with them and shoot drug dealers because of the heroin epidemic.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
This is now. Did I read this wrong? Was this a? I don't know if this was a satirical take on it, but somewhere I read that LePage was saying that they need to bring the guillotine back for drug dealers. Was that a part of it as well?
That was in the article too. He mentioned that. he apparently has suggested that.
So this is a Republican governor from Maine who I think about a month ago, I may have the video here on my desktop somewhere. I'll try to find it. But he essentially said that there's a drug problem in Maine, and the drug problem is being caused by drug dealers who come up from New York named Shifty, named D-Money. And then at the end of it, he said, and they leave, they get the white girls pregnant, and they leave.
I can give you the exact quote if you want.
Give me the exact quote. Go for it.
Incidentally, half the time they impregnate a young white girl before they leave, which is a real sad thing because we have another issue that we've got to deal with down the road.
And so now he's advocating not only is he making it a racist issue, right? Because a lot of people try to say, well, D-Money's not necessarily black. Okay, maybe Shifty and the other guy, they're not necessarily black. I'll give you that. But why the emphasis on impregnating white girls, right? What sense does that actually make if you're not saying it from a racial position? And so now it's not only a racist position, but also he's advocating for people to carry their weapons, to shoot drug dealers, also to implement the guillotine. Here's the problem. There is already this vigilante mentality across America where you have a lot of rabid right-wing gun, what do they call amosexual gun nuts, who are just waiting for the opportunity to kill somebody in a good guy versus a bad guy scenario. So when you have a person in a position of power who is abusing that position and advocating for people to carry their weapons, it's beyond problematic. But not only is this status quo for the Republican Party, this is a guy who's taken pictures with, who's been embraced by Bobby Jindal, been embraced by Chris Christie, been embraced by Mike Huckabee. I mean, he is a standard part of the Republican Party. David, I'll throw it to you.
No, I mean, they did question the race issue after he made that quote, and he claims that he was just trying to say that Maine is essentially all white. So he tried to backtrack on that. Mm-hmm. I'll leave it on the table as is. But the bigger thing with the guns to me is not only the vigilante on the right, but also the fact that we have so many issues going on with gun violence right now, and now you're suggesting that people just start shooting. It's kind of like the opposite of stand your ground, where you're suggesting people initiate.
Hang on one second. Yeah, you're initiating. You're creating the conflict, exactly like we saw with Trayvon Martin. That conflict was created by George Zimmerman, and they now have this impetus that is created by someone in power. So I'm mighty afraid that this, let's hope that it's just rhetoric that doesn't end in something very, very, very poorly. You have anything else on that particular article, David?
Well, a more realistic part of the quote, part of the article, in addition to the guillotine, is that he does want he wants drug dealers to face 20 years to life in prison. That's what and I think that's more of a realistic. More real quote. I don't agree with it at all, but it's you know.
and that becomes just as problematic. Well, I can't say just as problematic because killing someone versus them going to jail for 20 years to life. But definitely that's the insanity. That's the insanity that we're dealing with, man. David?
Yeah, it goes on both sides because we're calling for our jails to get to get less populous, and now he just wants to load them back up.
David, appreciate that article. Let me pass the microphone over to. All right, let's flip a coin. Who wants to go next? PJ or Solomon? Who wants to go next?
Well, first, can I comment on the article? I mean, I don't know if the direct quote was said because I'm looking at like 3 other things, but just to be sure, just to get this on like record, he's quoted as saying in the article, which I linked in the chat, everybody in Maine, we have constitutional carry, LePage said Wednesday, load up and get rid of the drug dealers.
Wow.
That's his exact words, according to the article. I'm going to take their word for it because it's the. I mean, I don't know, but it's what else are you doing besides making the police's job that much more harder? Because all it takes is someone who's going to construe his words as, okay, now I'm deputized. I have a gun and I'm deputized. Anyone who I anyone who I perceive as a drug dealer is going to get shot before due process, before Miranda rights. Before any sort of profiling. It's just, oh, that's a drug dealer. Bang, bang, bang. Like, that is, I mean, at the very least, that is going to start a lot more assault charges because there's going to be random-ass Maine people, which is, according to the chat, 95% white. There's going to start them pointing guns at a lot of people they think are drug dealers. And that's just like, it's chaotic. It's practically anarchy. But the dude's the mayor, or is it governor?
The governor.
Yeah, governor. Thank you. He's a governor.
I mean, he's a part of the Republicans Governor Association. He is a well-known and well-respected, as far as much respect as you can give this guy amongst Republican governors across the country. And so this is not the problem. Is partially these men and these women who take these ridiculously extreme positions. That's part of the problem. The other part of the problem is the people that they inspire to do stupid things. Right? Exactly like you said. Like, his words are going to inspire somebody to go out and be a vigilante, and they're at a minimum going to get an assault charge. Right? You're going to at a minimum get some of this type of unnecessary violence to take place because of the words of this governor. Just like this presidential candidate named Carly Fiorina, who was saying all of these inflammatory words towards Planned Parenthood, but then we act as though she has no responsibility in the Robert Deere shooting of the Planned Parenthood, when he left the scene saying no more baby parts. Right? So we don't have any responsibility laid at the feet of the people who incite this type of violence, yet we have this twisted world where President Obama, by his mere presence, is somehow inciting racial division, when no one can give me a single thing that he has said in his 8 years that is legitimately racially divisive, except for, if I had a son, he would look like Trayvon Martin. And then all of a sudden, President Obama is saying he's responsible for every single police shooting. That's what happened. President Obama is responsible for anything that a black person does, but Robert Deere is not laid at the feet of Carly Fiorina, and whatever is going to happen in Maine because of this of LePage will never be laid at his feet. We're not playing a balanced game. We're playing a very unbalanced game, and the reality of it is it's winning in the favor of conservatism. PJ, anything else? Solomon, you want to jump in on this article?
I'm good.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to pass it to Solomon. I see you have some chats coming up here, Solomon. So let's go to your article.
Yeah, I'm actually stuck on two that just came out. One is the Washington Post.
Okay.
An article that they just released, the editorial responding to the backlash that occurred from their editorial this morning. They just released one saying Bernie Sanders' ideas are not too bold, they are too facile.
That was the release this morning. That was their quasi endorsement of, or was it an explicit endorsement of Hillary?
That's the title for their second one. The first one was his ideas are fiction, and now this new one is they are not too bold, they are too facile.
Okay.
Facile.
Give us both of them. Merge them together.
So basically arguing that his health, because they just basically use it as a piece to promote that Vox article that came out about that Clinton staffer who said that Bernie's plans would cost $1 trillion more a year than he says they are, which has in that Vox article he didn't say what part of the plan would be inflated so much to cause that. He said, I did a study and it would cost double what Bernie says, so it's bad.
Right. And I hate to interrupt you, but I want you to be explicitly clear to the people who are listening. So Vox actually quoted it in the beginning of the article as a study from Emory University, right? But unpack who the person really was and their position, or maybe not if you don't know their exact position, but their relationship to the Clintons.
Yeah, the head of the study and the one that brought it to Vox was a former Clinton staffer, Bill Clinton staffer. I don't have his name here because I don't have the Vox article with me. I just have the Washington Post one. But essentially saying that it would, instead of costing $500 billion, it would cost $1.5 trillion per year, setting just mass inflation of prices that Bernie missed. And then they base in the Washington Post article, they just went back to Bernie's just dreaming about a European model and the like. And it's much shorter than their first one this morning, and was just trying to cover their bases by repeating themselves. So I actually got bored with it pretty quickly and saw this thing by The Nation instead, who endorsed Bernie last week, but talked about how both Bernie and Coates are missing the mark, and what their solution for the middle was is actually what I've been thinking for a very long time. Of like, I just feel like you, me, and the Progressive Army should just go down to like one of the Bernie offices and just say, this is what you guys need to do about race. They're saying both Coates and Bernie are missing they're both on both sides of the spectrum and are saying the other one needs to recognize the other, but realizing the middle is The Nation talking about black oppression and saying that Bernie is focusing too much on class while Coates is all on race, is that you have to bring in, which is kind of what they're both saying, that to teach the white working class that not only do they benefit from white privilege, which is what the Black Lives Matter and black activists talk about a lot, but they also suffer, particularly working class whites, suffer under a white privilege system economically. They, even when they're poor, they still have the social benefits of being white, but their oppression is just as integral to a white privilege system economically as black oppression, because they are kept slightly above blacks economically, so they feel like they're above someone. I like when Bernie talked about how Mississippi and other southern states have some of the lowest white wages of anywhere in the country. They're kept slightly above blacks and other minorities, so they feel like they're middle class, when in reality, money is being sucked out of the white working class just as much as it's being sucked out of the black working class, and they use either wedge issues or the fact that when blacks try to talk about raising themselves up, the power structure makes white working class people feel like that's a threat to themselves, and that it's created this perfect machine that's worked for centuries. And Bernie has alluded to that in a general election. That's something he'd like to talk about as part of a 50 straight strategy, going to conservative arenas and conservative spaces and talking about this, but he hasn't articulated it well, and he hasn't articulated in a primary to black people that that's what he wants to do. And I think he should, in a meeting between black activists and him, that should be a definite part of the conversation, is that I intend, because it's no secret that Bernie's comfort zone is working class whites. He turned a conservative rural state like Vermont into a liberal bastion by getting working class whites to trust him. Like, it's probably, we're never going to agree on social issues with these Vermont farmers. He's just like, you don't oppose gay marriage. I've supported it my entire life. I support a woman's right to choose. I'm being honest with you. That's just how it is. But I will fight to make sure that Big Agro never comes into this state to destroy your livelihoods that you've had for generations. And that trust was built. And what I think Bernie misses is that in this primary, in order to get black votes that have been so skeptical of him, he needs to explain, I am not a black savior, and I may not even be a black champion, but what I can do is to go to white working class people and understand the system that they become a part of when they always try to use race as a distraction from their own problems, and how both black and white are oppressed under the crony capitalist system.
Now let me jump in there. Let me jump in there and start at the top and work my way through what you said, and then I'll throw it back to you, and then everyone else can chime in. First of all, it's Kenneth Thorpe. Kenneth Thorpe is the guy from Emory University who did the study that Vox quoted, saying that it's going to cost a single payer system. Bernie Sanders' single payer healthcare system is going to be $1.1 trillion a year more expensive. Kenneth Thorpe is a former assistant secretary, deputy assistant secretary underneath Bill Clinton's cabinet, and he had a major role in coordinating President Clinton's healthcare reform proposals. So he is a part of the Clinton machine. At a bare minimum, they should have given that disclaimer in that very first paragraph. But Vox, to me, has unloaded and kind of played their card. Right, they're starting to reveal exactly where they are. Like, we were counting on Vox to be this unbiased source to give us very factual numbers.
The liberal policy wonk. That's what we thought it was going to be.
And all we needed you to do was to give the numbers. You're the Ezra Klein. You're the policy wonk. That's what we liked you for on MSNBC. That's what we subscribed to you on Vox for. But in their very first paragraph, they lay this out as if it was a legitimate study based on fact without any bias. But I think most of their readers would have appreciated to know that the person who did this study is a part of the Clinton machine. So that's number one. Number two, I want to push back it's not even a pushback. I think what you're saying about Bernie making it clear, actually strike that. Let me start over. What you're describing in terms of the benefit that white people get, but also the detriment and the way they suffer underneath white supremacy is something that James Baldwin, the author, said in a debate, in the Cambridge debate with William F. Buckley. And he described it as he's sitting in line at the Western Union, and there's this white lady who's waiting, who's getting rude with him and treating him like he's not anything but an animal. But the reality of it is that she is economically just as strained and tortured by this white supremacist system as he is. But so long as she feels like she has that one extra edge because she's white, at least she's not black, then she's not even aware that her suffering is not due to that black person that she hates. Her suffering is due to the white supremacist system that causes her to hate, that teaches her to hate, so that she can ignore the reality of the source of her qualms and her pain and her economic woes. So what you're saying, I don't know which article you brought that from, or if that's something that you came up with, but that's 100% based in, that's so factually true. And it's something that I feel that Bernie Sanders has alluded to, but he hasn't hammered, right? I agree with you in this, that he hasn't hammered this, and that if he came down that third way in terms of showing very strongly, unequivocally, just like outright showing that this same economic problem, this economic paradigm that everyone who is middle class and poor suffer underneath, right? The working poor and the poor and the impoverished suffer underneath, is the same white supremacist system that makes the poor white person think that they're better than the poor black person.
Yeah.
And if he hammered that, then I think you're 100% right. I think he would resonate a lot more with, my God, if he went to black churches with that. Oh, sweet God, if he could ever get a speech at a black church saying something like that, that would change the game.
Yeah, I think he should do more than allude to it like he has so far. It's like, think of how quickly the black vote would start turning if he started saying what he's alluded to directly, just went at it.
Yeah.
And it was a Nation article. I put it in the chat, in the Hangout. But I've had the idea and thought for a while, but they set it out perfectly. It's what I think he has to do, and I don't know if we just need to go in there. You guys really need to start pushing the question of race within class. Like, it's not race versus class or class versus race. They're both intertwined, and they both create this system that has been built to prevent us from overturning it using this divisiveness. And the problem is that even now, those working class whites, because the inequality has accelerated so quickly, that even they feel something is off, and they're not sure why. They're confused. A lot of them are going to Trump because he's saying something that kind of feels like this. Maybe Trump gets something. Something feels off, And I think Bernie can explain to him what that feeling really is that the white power structure that has caused you to be suppressed, they've gotten cocky. They've accelerated the rate of inequality so quickly that even now you're starting to wake up to it.
You know what? Here's something that he should really say, because this is, I believe this to be 100% true. The white elite system no more cares about a poor white person in the trailer park than they do a poor black person in the hood. They would treat you, that maybe the police would treat you differently, maybe the person in Walmart would treat you differently, maybe the teacher in school would treat you differently, but the people, the 1%, they would not. They will see you exactly as the same vermin as they see black people in the hood. Now, maybe he's not going to say vermin, but if he needs to express it from that position with that type of passion. Let me grab this caller, because I have the phones are lighting up, and I think they have a comment on this. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question? 813.
Yeah, this is Dennis. Yeah, this is Dennis. I'm Sleep Inertia on Twitter. Yeah, I just wanted to speak on the topic we're talking about in regards to James Baldwin, and it's because when you talked earlier about Heather McGhee and what she said on MSNBC, it really pisses me off, because when she wrote her essay today, the same fucking day that she went on this damn TV show and tried to say that Trump is the same as Bernie Sanders, the whole point of that essay was to say that Bernie Sanders should be bringing that point across. That he should be bringing that point across that, you know what, if you're white, you're also being oppressed by the same system that's disproportionately oppressing black people.
Right.
And the voters would respond to that. And when black people see that, they would be more supportive of his campaign.
Right.
So it really pisses me off to see that duplicity, to see somebody have such a point, such a nuanced point in an essay, and then go on TV and say some stupid shit like that.
Yeah, that's the and I remember, and actually I think who said, one of you guys, it was either you or David that sent me the clip, but I remember talking with you about that, because I read that essay and she had valid critiques in the essay, which blew me away. But then she got on television, just like you said, and I think this was actually your comment, that you have to be so dramatic for television, or you have to make you have to play for the ratings on television. And she boiled down this very nuanced, eloquent point down to Bernie Sanders is the same as Donald Trump because they're both going after angry white men. I'll let you get the last word, caller.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's problematic for me because the organization she represents, that she's the president of, they have pushed a lot of progressive issues. Like, she's actually been on that show, and not that long ago, she was pointing out how Walmart reinvests in their own stock to boost up their company value. And if they were not to do that, they could afford to pay their employees $6 more an hour, which is the exact same wage Bernie Sanders is pushing for. So it's so problematic and disheartening to see that from
that game.
People that are in the media. That total game. It just pisses me off.
Thanks.
I had to point that out.
Hey, I appreciate the call, man. Definitely appreciate the call. And I agree with you 100% that people who, this is the disappointing thing, people who otherwise are reasonable, academic, reasoned arguments, or present reasoned arguments, they are laying down their own values, their own, the thing that made them worthwhile in the first place, especially Vox. Like, I always went to Vox for just the numbers. Just give me the numbers, right? Let's look at the numbers and then unpack what's behind the numbers, right? And then even McGee, I can't think of her first name to save my life, but I followed her work, and I was actually very excited when she got the position. I remember when she got the position, it was a huge deal, and we celebrated it. But she did exactly what the caller just said. She took a very nuanced position that Solomon was describing, saying that Bernie Sanders needs to unpack the racial component of the economics of white supremacy, right? That's it right there in a nutshell. White supremacy has an economic system. And if Bernie Sanders would unpack the commonality between the economic system of white supremacy, the commonality that poor white people have with poor black people, but also the racial component of it, right? How it's perpetrated. It's perpetrated by this belief in the minds of white people, a poor white person, that they're somehow better in America than a poor black person, and that in itself is a product of white privilege, which keeps them blind to the reality that you are just as marginalized economically in the system. Actually, not as much as black people, but you are marginalized in the system, but you're blind to it because you have the same color as Donald Trump and the 1%, right? If he would just unpack the economics of this white supremacist system, then he would be firing on all cylinders. And so this is what she wrote. But when she got on MSNBC, she said Bernie Sanders is just like Donald Trump. They're both going after angry white men. And insult to injury was this: Hillary Clinton is trying to rebuild President Obama's coalition. The fine print: Hillary Clinton is trying to continue this magnificent, beautifully rainbow color coalition that President Obama had. Solomon, I'll let you get the last word on your article. Solomon, go for it.
I just say, when should we go to headquarters?
Hey, I'm all about that. Let's put it together. Progressive Army, we need to get word over to Bernie Sanders, man. He needs to really step it up. And there's quite a few things that they really should do differently. No campaign is perfect. There's some missteps that they have, and I think this is one of them. So social media is just as good as anything else. You know what we need to do as Progressive Army? All these writers we have over here, we need to write it out. We need to piece it together for them and just hand it to them. Let's deliver it to them.
Let's give our own editorial board.
Yeah, exactly. Solomon, thanks for that piece. We're going to move over to PJ, but before we do that, I want to grab this caller. Hang on one second. 607, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, what's up, man? It's Will in New York.
Will in New York. What's happening, man?
Not much, just chilling, bro. So, yeah, I had, throughout, I've had a couple thoughts that have popped into my head. I think I tweeted one of them to you about the war on drugs. I mean, we see the epidemics that are based on countries we invaded, Nicaragua in the 80s, and now in the Middle East we have the heroin epidemic. So that going back to that first one, the only thing that I could think of that really stuck out to me as I was just kind of listening on hold, and I missed the last part of that for whatever reason, was it's almost like, the principle of not facing the social oppression, so to speak, and but suffering the economic repercussions. It's almost like the principle of bread and circus, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
You keep them just fat and happy enough and entertained to the point that they're just they walk around in this haze, blinders are on. They don't see the issues around them that actually affect them or where they stem from and where they're coming from, because it's been said complacency breeds failure. I wrote that in the chat room. So if you're complacent, and why bother even paying attention to what's going on around you? Because you know what? Shit could go really bad soon. Excuse me for swearing, but
no problem.
But when it does, I want to make sure I've got my nose to the grindstone and I'm showing up to work every day. So I don't know if you see a point there, but I mean that's all I could really think when I was listening to that article. So,
Will, always a pleasure, man. Thanks so much for the call.
Yeah.
All right, awesome, man. Appreciate that. Let's move to PJ. And PJ, you have an article. What's your article about?
Okay. Thank you for letting me on. For what it's worth, this is on its face, it's a sort of bloggish post that I'm commenting on, but of course it's going to lead to my own commentary on the Republican Party, or rather conservative logic. It's probably not the strongest thing to end on, so I advise anyone else here to have their own thoughts or another article to bring up, because I'd feel bad ending it on this note.
Oh, I've got some more stuff. So
all right, I linked it in the chat. It's from Bristol Palin, daughter of Sarah Palin, who responded to SNL's parody from Tina Fey on her mother, Sarah Palin.
Right.
As you might or might not know, everyone, Sarah Palin endorsed Donald Trump for a lengthy amount of time at a podium, basically being his hype man. Both saying how great he is and also just rather just rhyming with gibberish is the best I could say. There's so many parodies online, including Stephen Colbert and Tina Fey herself, which sort of make fun of her arbitrarily rhyming things, saying one of my favorite lines I have to bring up is all of you full-time hard-working moms and with the hands that rock the cradle, which if she had any sort of cultural experience with her, would know that that's not a good thing to call people. Look up the movie if you haven't. It's called Hand That Rocks the Cradle. That being said, you know, she of course, because the liberal media is trashing her mom, she has to be in defense of her mother, Sarah Palin, and you know, she says, oh, how desperate were they for ratings to make fun of my mother? And I can't help but think, that's not the best way to how would you put it? To encapsulate your own mother or anyone you're defending. Oh, how can a large media group be so desperate for ratings that they have to go to an easy, obvious punchline like my mom to make a point? That doesn't really put her in the best defensible position. But more to the point and a bit more concrete. My problem with this is that, well, I don't blame her for defending her mom, because I'm sure you, Ben, if anyone attacked your family, you'd fight them back, even if all their points were accurate.
Yeah, families, yes.
But the thing is that I feel like what she does is endemic to conservative logic. It's symptomatic of how, as I see it, and I might be biased, so feel free anyone to correct me on this. Anytime anyone on the right wing spouts off anything, and it could be as without substance as Miss Palin's rhyming a rally cry, or something as direct and falsifiable as Donald Trump saying there are 30 to 34 million undocumented immigrants in this country, which is completely not true. It's much closer to 11. But he could just say that and, you know, not get called down on it. The problem is that for some reason the idea is we're supposed to take their words as at fact, and if we don't, it's either A, the liberal media, or B, we shouldn't be attacking them for whatever reason. They take themselves as immune to criticism. In fact, take the whole point about Donald Trump not going on the Fox News debate, specifically because Megyn Kelly quoted him. She didn't deride him, she didn't debase him, she quoted him on his own tweets, and he said, oh, because Fox News is treating me so bad, I'm not going to get on. So I don't understand, and I'd like anyone's input, I don't understand why the right wing, the far right wing, because I'm sure not every conservative is this batshit, excuse my language, I don't understand why they think they have the carte blanche to say literally anything. From damning points to outright lies, and then when they say it, they shouldn't be called on it, or else I'm taking my ball and going home. And secondly, they're the same people that hate political correctness and safe spaces. They're the same type of people that don't. They basically, it comes down to they hate opposition.
Right.
And yet, the right side is all about fighting tyranny. Fighting the liberal progressive media.
You're asking why right-wing entitlement and victimhood is a thing, and it's the same thing with Christian victimhood complex, which Ben wrote a piece about a little while ago. They're essentially the same thing. They love being played the victim. They love touting being how strong they are until it's convenient to play the victim, and then they love playing the victim, and then they feel entitled. Like, look at the debate schedule, or look at like the debate going on right now compared to the questions that Democrats, especially progressives, get asked. Like, look at Chris Cuomo. TYT talked about this on their show today. Look at the questions Chris Cuomo and Susan Sarandon got on CNN.
Yeah.
When they were questioned by CNN compared to how CNN and other neutral or liberal media sites do with Republicans. They coddle them so much. I don't know if the RNC demands it or if they just do it out of second nature, but Republicans and conservatives get entitled. They get Hugh Hewitt for their debates on CNN when you will never see Tom Hartman or Ben or Jank or Anna or any progressive talk stars on for a Democratic debate. You just won't.
Well,
Okay,
I appreciate you considering me in that crowd of progressive. Anyway, go ahead, PJ. What's up, man?
no, I just want to say, okay. Speaking pragmatically, I myself am completely aware of the dissonance of it, but I wanted to pose it as a question. So, if there's some right wing that actually has the gift of introspection, they'd understand the BS that they're being fed. That they are both supposed to consider themselves a victim of all of this injustice, not being able to tell it like it is, not being able to have the American dream because of immigrants and because of Muslims and all that crap, while at the same time feeling entitled to everything that cheap labor, corporate subsidies, and so on is supposed to grant them, even though they realistically might not get it, because as Bernie keeps saying, and I'm going to quote him on this, it's a 1/10 of 1% that's reaping the benefits of all of our hard work. And yet the middle and lower class that's being riled by Trump, by Palin, by Ted Cruz, and so forth, think that they are the beneficiaries of this. They think that they should be getting all of the benefits of the hard work, and they're not. And the fault of that isn't the corporations. It isn't all the tax loopholes and the offshore banking and whatever. It's the poor people. It's the political correctness. It's the liberals. It's the socialists. And all I just want to say is that I'm posing it as a question so that they themselves can hopefully guide themselves to an answer for it. Because obviously, if we tell them that they're wrong and that they're being led astray, they won't listen.
But you know what I have an example. I'm going to up the ante. I have an example that they should be able to see. But then let me let Solomon go first, and then I'm going to give you my example that I think conservatives will be able to see. Whether or not they'll apply it to themselves, that's a whole different question.
It would kind of just wipe all that away, but you're asking whether Republicans have any introspection. Any Republican, especially high-profile one, and this isn't jokingly, any high-profile Republican with any sense of introspection about themselves and their party has probably become an independent at this point. This is like citing Lindsey Graham as one. Mitt Romney's on his way there when he basically said if these idiots on the debate stages don't start acting like they need to raise the minimum wage, we're going to lose the party. Like, not lose the election, we're going to lose the party. He's been saying that for months, and it doesn't even get attention on mainstream media circles, on conservative media circles. It's like, you guys need to start supporting a $15 minimum wage right now. And no one's listening to him, and he's probably going to lose the support in the party. And if there's a high-profile Republican who has any self-consciousness, self-awareness of where their party has moved, they're out.
Here's the thing, John Kasich, they're out, or they're at 1%, right? John Kasich is the only one I think has a modicum of self-reflection. Let me take a housekeeping break right here. 7:06. I apologize. I kept you on hold for about 2 minutes. My apologies. If you want to call back, I'll clear it. We'll stop what we're doing so we can take your call, because I don't like keeping people on hold that long. If they have any modicum of self-reflection, like John Kasich, which he still have problems, right? He still has issues, but he can take a moment to look and say, guys, we're going
to be independent soon too, probably, when he loses.
Right. And he's going to lose. Like, he's going to lose tragically. That's number one. Number two, it is actually considered a vice. If you ever listen to Rush Limbaugh enough, you're going to hear him talk about liberal navel gazers, right? The navel gazers, people who self-reflect and have introspection, and it is actually talked about in conservative circles as if it's a detrimental thing. So where we see that as a virtue, like, I don't know anyone that's a mature adult that cannot look at self-reflection and introspection as a virtue. Where we see it as a virtue, people like Rush Limbaugh, who are promoting and pushing this Republican propaganda machine, they need listeners who will refuse to have a moment of introspection, which is why they fire on every cylinder, that no matter what comes out of somebody's mouth, like President Obama, no matter how President Obama could say Jesus is the reason for the season and Christmas is all about Jesus's birth, they will find a way to oppose his words, because if those words ever land on somebody's ears and connects, then it will force a moment of introspection where they look and say, maybe President Obama isn't this or isn't that. And Republican propaganda falls apart as soon as you say maybe or what if. So that's the number one thing. So 706 has called in. I want to respect. And then after we get done talking about talking with 706, I want to tell you how Republicans and conservatives can see it, because I want to demonstrate it in someone else. Caller, you're live on the air. Thanks so much for calling back. Thanks for your patience. What's up?
Hey, thanks for having me, man. It's Richie from Georgia.
Richard, what's going on, man? Glad to have you.
I think that there may be something that a lot of progressives or people that are supporting Hillary Clinton aren't seeing, that can have a lot of repercussions down the road if she gets elected.
Go for it.
And that is that right now, you know, in the past 7 years that Obama has been president, up to this point right now, Republicans control, you know, 28 state legislatures, and Dems only control about 7. Then there's about 31 Republican governors, and then they hold more seats in the Senate than the House. And I believe that's mainly because of all the vitriol they've been able to spew over the past 7 years, and that have, you know, kind of brought out more Republican voters than it has Democratic voters, because President Obama hasn't been able to do all that he's wanted to do. And then if Hillary's going to hold on to that mantle, hold on to that that legacy, the amount of vitriol she's going to get isn't going to change. It may even increase, and that's going to lessen our ability to gain state seats and governor seats and seats in Congress. And if we don't have a revolutionary candidate like Bernie Sanders that will inspire hope and will inspire people to come out and support some of these lower ballot candidates, then I believe it's going to be almost a complete Republican takeover very soon.
I think that's a good observation, man. I actually agree with you, anecdotally, and then I want to say just logically, right? Logically, what you're saying is sound, right? There's this expectation that Hillary Clinton is going to be able to accomplish things that Bernie Sanders won't be able to accomplish, because for some reason the Republican Congress is going to oppose Bernie Sanders more than they oppose Hillary Clinton, or the reverse of that, that Hillary Clinton is such a statesman or stateswoman that she's going to be able to get the Republican Party to work, and we will get stuff done. And it's like there's this blank spot, this intentional blank spot, mind you, where they don't remember Benghazi. And the only person that they hate as much, if not more than President Obama, is Hillary Clinton. And the same intransigence that President Obama faced, Hillary Clinton is going to face it that much more. They're going to spend the entire time of a Hillary Clinton presidency trying to impeach her over emails, trying to impeach her over Benghazi. It will never go away. Not because whether or not you think it's valid, right? It's whether or not it actually happened. This is the party. And so why would we put up somebody who's promising concessions, promising that all we're going to do is we're going to work and we're going to get done the things that we can get done, when she has to face people who would not work with her any more than they would work with Voldemort. I can't even say his name. my tongue is tied. The bourbon has gotten to me. But they don't want to work with Hillary. And so we're missing that. Now, here's the other thing, anecdotally. Before I actually considered Bernie Sanders myself, I was in this depressed state of politics where I didn't even want to talk about politics, because it felt inevitable that Hillary Clinton was going to be Hillary Clinton versus Jeb Bush, and I was like, you know what, forget about it. I don't care. I don't really care. Now, that's anecdotal for me, but there are so many people that I talk to on a regular basis, from my family to people in the community here in Boston to people across the country through social media, who felt the same exact way. And without that enthusiasm to actually get people up for a reason to go vote, then you're going to, exactly what you said, there will be no down ballot successes, because who is really enthusiastic about Hillary Clinton except for people who are a part of the establishment, or people, honestly, let's just call a spade, who are excited about voting for the first woman president. I personally would be excited about voting for the first woman president, but Hillary Clinton was not the one that actually made me excited about doing it. It was Elizabeth Warren. Caller, I appreciate that, man. Do you got anything else?
No, I mean, I agree with pretty much all you said. I mean, I mean, it's amazing that we were able to have America's first black president, and it would be amazing for us to have our first woman president. And when Elizabeth Warren runs, maybe that would be the case. But
I would give you an applause there, man. George is in the house.
Those things aren't going to matter if we continue to have obstructionism. So, I mean, it would be amazing, but I don't see her getting anything done either.
Dude, I did not hear, you said Georgia, and I'm like, I don't hear a Southern accent, but you said about 3 words in there that sounded a little Southern. It reminded me of home. I'm actually from Florida. Do you know where Fernandina Beach is? Right there, right on the northern border of Florida, southern border of Georgia. I think I've been there when I was young. Yeah. So I know the South well, man. Thanks so much for the call, man. Glad you're tuning in.
All right. Thank you.
All right, I just want to make sure I got him on there because he waited for about 10 minutes there. Let me say this to PJ's article and question of actually, let me go to Solomon. Solomon, you had a great title for it where it's like an entitlement. What was that you call that entire paradigm where they feel like they can critique but they shouldn't be critiqued?
What was that?
Man, you got to pay attention, dude.
No, I was paying attention right when you started saying that. The Hangouts went.
Okay, all right. You're making me look bad on my own show. No, you gave it a title. What PJ was describing about people who feel entitled to be able to critique and criticize, but feel like they should not be criticized. You had a great title. Maybe.
I forgot what I said, but it was really good. I should write that down.
You should write it down. We'll rewind it. If anybody remembers, put it in the chat and we'll rewind it. This is how we can help conservatives see it because I'm going to up the ante. It's the same exact paradigm that we see with Hillary Clinton supporters right now. It's the same thing that they want. They want to be able to criticize Bernie Sanders. They want to be able to call him a racist. They want to be able to say he's a misogynist. They want to be able to say that he's weak on gun control. They want to make him seem like he's a socialist. You know, that he's this nefarious, evil, old white man who can't connect with minorities and has no chance of winning whatsoever. But if we dare brought the equivalent opposition to them, then all of a sudden we're not playing fair. We're not playing nice. Oh, you're being so misogynistic, or you're being so this and you're being so that. So it's the same exact thing. Now, if you want to up the ante a little more, I could apply it to Black Lives Matter, but I've given them enough hell this week.
You mean like right-wing entitlement and then victimhood, like in this?
That's exactly it. Right-wing entitlement and victimhood, and we see it across the board. Now, to a certain extent, I think it's human nature. I think we're all capable of doing it. But if you're not introspective, I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but who cares? It's Friday night and whatever. But
it's not Friday. Lay off the bourbon.
Oh, it's not Friday. If you don't have any introspection, then you won't be able to see yourself doing this and call yourself on it. So I think it was actually a great article, PJ. Everyone, I want to thank the Progressive Army for joining me tonight.
A good example of what you just said would be like at a conversation I had with like that Hillary bought a Tumblr account I may have told you about before, where they're in the whole medical records where Bernie should release his medical records. This is a perfect example of that criticism, but immediate victimhood when you respond. Is they kept saying, well, Bernie might have some health effect, and then when he released it and there was essentially nothing, they're like, well, we need to know anything that was wrong with him, and I brought up, well, if we're just going to go down this road, Hillary literally had a stroke like 3 years ago. Why is going through the very minutia of anything that could be wrong with Bernie? When I brought that up, oh no, you're not allowed to do that. I'm a Republican now because I brought up that the fact that she had a stroke when you keep to bring up the fact that Bernie has literally almost nothing on his record.
Right, that just because he's an old man, right? You know what you do, and there's a remedy to that, and I'll give you guys a remedy. The other version of that is, I think I think I've outdone myself now. I can't even remember what I was going to say. This is rare. I can't remember what I was going to say. So this is a good point. It's getting to call it a night. Let me read this quote. I want to read this quote from Michelle Alexander. This is what I want to close on.
I do have a question.
Are you serious? I just posted a Reddit. I just posted in the Hangouts chat that Michelle Alexander, when they post on the subreddit, because I wanted to show you the kind of pushback I'm getting as a moderator on the subreddit when I'm telling a lot of the same people who like to go from the subreddit to start spamming black activists on Twitter because they're like, oh, we got to draft her to now. Everyone go to her Twitter and tell her she needs to support Bernie now. And I was like, no.
No, stand down. Chill out.
You can see the conversation. I just linked it in the Hangout and you can show it. I was like, no.
Don't let it be organic. Listen, I hate doing this to people who I agree with, but come on, guys. Listen, you have to let it be organic. And no, here it is. This is what I want to tell you. You can't let somebody know that you want something from them if you really want them to do it. What I just told you is the key to everything.
Art of the deal.
Is that from the Art of the Deal? If that's from the Art of the Deal, then whatever it is. But that's what I used to do. That's how I met my wife. Let's go there. I'm not going to talk about the old girls. Like, forget about the old women from the past. Right how I met my wife. You don't come on so strongly. And if you see somebody that you want to be a surrogate for Bernie Sanders, you don't storm them with 10,000 tweets. You got to do this. You got to do that. No, you're too thirsty. Slow down. Let them come to you, right? Because if they really want something from you, they will come to you. If they really wanted to do this for Bernie Sanders, then they will come to Bernie Sanders. Otherwise, you're going to be stalking someone who never wanted you in the first place. What I'm telling you guys right now, you young guys right now, and the young women right now, it is very, very, very true in politics, and it's very true in relationships. You don't ever show you don't do it. You just let it work itself out, because it will. If they want you, they will come to you. Don't go after Michelle Alexander, because you can turn her against Bernie Sanders.
That's what I was trying to tell them. Is like, there's a risk of a backlash. We don't have a great record of this before. And they were like, well, we want to do something. We want to do something. And said, if you really just want to do something that badly, what you can do is you can go tweet a couple times to Nina Turner or Killer Mike or Sean and say, hey, do you guys think that you could actually talk to her and maybe if some kind of discussion based on that? And they're like, and some of them were like, oh, I guess now if us white people go over to talk to black activists, we're just labeled white racists. And I'm like,
yes, here, let me help you out. Yes, you are. You are going to be labeled as an opportunistic white racist by people who are politically manipulative enough to understand that they can shut you down with that. I'm trying to put y'all up on game. Real talk. I'm trying to put you up on game. They are playing you. And the best way to avoid being played is just to say, I don't even have to talk to you. You don't even have to exist. We could pass each other on the train and never say anything to each other. You go your way, I go my way. But what you're not going to do is take my good efforts and turn it into something nefarious for your political games. And so everybody, I don't care who camp you're in, you could take this advice, but particularly Bernie Sanders camp, yes. If you say something to Black Lives Matter folks right now, they will turn it on you. If you are white, they will turn it on you and make you look like you are a racist. Now, I'm putting out game that I probably never should put out, but I'm true to the truth. I have to be true about what's true, and that's what's happening in a lot of cases. Now, some of y'all are just dicks, some of y'all are assholes, and some of y'all do need to get called on it, but I don't think that's majority of you. I think the majority of you are just so eager and so ambitious and so super passionate about Bernie that you don't realize that you're pestering people and it backfires. And then the rest of you are just not realizing that you're being played by people who know how to shut you up completely by saying that you don't have anything to say about this because you are white and you need to listen. It's a game, so don't give them the tools to play the game. Just go and talk to somebody else, because there's plenty of other people that you can engage with that actually wants to hear about Bernie. That's number one. Number two, and I'm going to go home on this one. Actually, I am home. The other thing I want to say is, if you want to get meta and actually go deep into this, right, I probably shouldn't say this because this is a counter manipulation. This is not art of war. This is the art of power, the 48 laws of power, and it's very manipulative. But if you know their game, play their game on them. there was a white lady who was going around chastising all of the white Bernie supporters for dare saying anything about black people who they had disagreed with. I decided to be just as manipulative as she was being. I went to her and said, if you would listen and stop marginalizing and stop erasing black voices, then you would realize that it's not just white people who are saying this, but because you're not listening and you're marginalizing these black voices, you're attacking and using these white people as a political tool when it's really a lot of black people who have the same criticism of Black Lives Matter. Shut her the hell up. Counter manipulation, that's next level. That is the Progressive Army tip for the night. It's out there now. I can't take it back. That's a power play. So, all right, folks, that's all I have. So Michelle Alexander, this is what she said. Everything else I was saying was just foolishness, but this is real. Michelle Alexander, if anyone doubts, I quote, if anyone doubts that the mainstream media fails to tell the truth about our political system and its true winners and losers, the spectacle of large majorities of black folks supporting Hillary Clinton in the primary races ought to be proof enough. I can't believe Hillary would be coasting into the primaries with her current margin of black support if most people knew how much damage the Clintons have done. The millions of families that were destroyed the last time they were in the White House, thanks to their boastful embrace of the mass incarceration machine and their total capitulation to the right-wing narrative on race, crime, welfare, and taxes. There's so much more to say on this topic, and it's a shame that more people aren't saying it. I think it's time we have that conversation. God doggone right. And that's what I've been saying all week long. There is so much valid critique that should be in a rigorous conversation, not a hit piece, but a valid conversation of comparing Hillary Clinton to Bernie Sanders that not even black media or political elite are bringing to the table because, what she said, the mainstream media fails to tell the truth about our political system. And now, as a result, the disservice has been done to the black community as well as the American community, because black people are being used as a prop to take Hillary Clinton to the White House without her ever being answerable to the very real things that Michelle Alexander pointed out here. The boastful embrace of the mass incarceration machine, their total capitulation to the right-wing narrative on race, crime, welfare, and taxes. I can't say it any better. I don't even have to expound on it anymore. Guys, any last words? Anything you want to say? I'll pass the mic. Everyone either just say goodnight, tell them where they find you. David, you go first.
Thanks for having me on the show. On Twitter, I'm DKG3387. Have a good night, everyone. Progressive Army.
DKG3387?
Yep.
Follow him on Twitter. PJ, you're up.
I did have a question. First, let me plug myself. You have nowhere to follow me. If you want to hear more of what I have to say, I'm hopefully going to write more at theprogressivearmy.com. My name is PJ Brito at theprogressivearmy.com. My question real quick, and you don't have to answer now, answer like in a post or at another day. If you think Hillary is going to get opposition as president from the current hold from the right wing, what kind of opposition do you think that a socialist who cares for the people and wants to give free stuff like Bernie Sanders is going to get from the right wing? I'm sure it's going to be as much, if not more, personally, but I'd like to hear your words.
I think, no, I don't think it's going to be more, because there's nobody they hate more than Obama than Hillary Clinton, right? They are the two people they hate the most. And two, I'm sure they could find a way to hate Bernie Sanders about the same. They would try, right? But two, they've played the socialist card so hard over the last 8 years that it almost has no effect. There's the sad part about it, the effect that it still has is coming from Democrats. It's coming from so-called progressives pushing back against Bernie Sanders. But from the right, you know, all you got to do is ask them to define socialism as compared to communism and what are the unique differences of it without Googling, and then most of them shut up because they don't know.
I have to disagree, and I'm not just not to pick a fight with you, because trust me, I'd love if it was any other way, but they, the right wing, as so far as I see it, play on and build on the fear of the unknown. They don't have to know how Muslims or Mexicans or women or welfare people are like. They just have to think a certain narrative. So I mean, of course, you're right. No one can accurately define what a communist or a socialist is now, but all they know is that it's a scary word. And while I do agree that you're right, it doesn't, like, it's mostly from the Democrats that's pushing on it right now. But it's just a scary word.
It's a scary word, but you know what? And you're right in the sense of what I was saying was very practical and very logical, and so that doesn't work on a lot of them. But I think Bernie Sanders has a very good position on it. He is only as radical as Dwight E. Eisenhower. Dwight was it H? I can't even think tonight. Dwight. What is Dwight's middle initial? Somebody.
Dwight Eisenhower.
Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Dwight D. Eisenhower. It's late, but yeah. He's no more radical than that, and I think if he hammers that down, then he stands a chance. But in general, to your question, it's going to be the same amount of opposition. So if we're going to face the same amount of opposition, why the hell wouldn't we go for what we think is best for America instead of starting from a position of weakness?
I think if Trump's the nominee, it's going to be very interesting for them to figure out how they're going to do it, because one, they have to figure out how to control Trump to even build any kind of narrative at all, and two, they have to deal with the fact that Bernie is a higher second choice for Trump voters than other Republican candidates, and those conservatives that are supported, that would pick Bernie as their second choice, they know he calls himself a democratic socialist, and it's not bothering them. And if you're a conservative, that really has to freak you out. So they're Trump. If he's the nominee and Trump is the nominee, it's going to be very interesting to see what the Oppo research is, and they might go for faith, Jewish. They might go for some kind of ethnic thing, because if socialism, if ideology is him saying I'm a democratic socialist, if he's still their second pick with Trump, then they might not be able to go on just economic policy.
Gotcha. Hey, PJ, all right, you already said where they should find you.
Yeah, just good night all.
All right, Solomon, give them closing words so we get out of here.
All right, my Tumblr is Dylan Darius, my Twitter is Dylan Darius. I'm Solomon Russell on the Progressive Army, and just as a final reminder, just because Michelle Alexander said this does not mean that you should try and draft her and spam her on Twitter. It's very likely that one of the I know this was from the heart, but one of the reasons she may have said this is because she saw how alone this argument is out in the public, how there's almost virtually no black intellectuals saying this very obvious point, while there's others trying to attack Bernie. There's like, if literally no one is going to do this, I'm going to start saying it.
Oh, God, nobody is saying it, and I've only got 70 people watching tonight, so it's not, I'm shouting it from the rafters, but somebody with the political capital and social capital has to say something like this, and thankfully it's she stepped up to the plate. So thank you, Michelle Alexander. Do not scare her away by a tweet storm. Don't do it. All right, folks. I get the last word. Thanks so much for joining me. Tomorrow night I will be with Tim Black at 9 p.m. just hanging out. I have no idea what we're talking about. We'll probably just talk about stupid stuff. You can Benjamin Dixon show. Go to actually, I'm going to let my announcer say it, and then I'm going to bed. You guys take it easy. Have a good night. South Carolina, be sure to register to vote. And I believe that's it.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Crazy mother.
If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Oh, I did have something else to say.
Consider becoming a Patreon.
Yeah, I have a question for you too.
www.patreon.com/the BBD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Folks, let me say this. I mean this. There's only like 57 people left here. We had a lot more earlier. The Progressive Army is male heavy. When I look at my demographics for YouTube, I have like 75% men who watch, 25% women. it's not on purpose. That's just who comes and listens to me. I really would love to have more female women progressive voices. I would love to have just not just because of a demographic issue, but because you would have the ability to speak on something from perspective that none of us have. It's just valuable to have different voices. So if you are a progressive woman and you don't mind scrapping and you don't mind getting into deep dive arguments and just great debates, we want you expressly. We need you to be a part of the Progressive Army. So go find those progressive women who are always have something smart to say, and tell them that we want you here at the Progressive Army. I don't know how much more passionately I could say it. I would love to have 5 women here at one time with 5 guys, and we just have an intellectual conversation. I don't need them to come. Listen, I don't do tokenism. I don't need them to come and talk about women issues. I want them to come and talk about everything: economics, international relations, foreign policy, cyber tech, everything. So the floor is open. If you ever wanted to be a part of something that's growing, you get carte blanche, because like there's nothing but testosterone in the room tonight, as far as I can tell, right? Anyway, PJ, what was up, man?
Thank God I had the bathroom. Thank God I had the speakers on when I went to the bathroom real quick. Did you say you were putting on a show tomorrow?
I'm hanging out with PJ. I'm hanging out with Tim Black on the Tim Black YouTube channel. So guys, come over there at 9 o'clock tomorrow night and hang out with us.
All right, and 6,000 subscribers. 6,000 subscribers.
Oh yeah. Thank you for reminding me. We're at like 5,500 now. I think we can get 500 subscribers in a week. I'll put out another good video. Let me see if I can find a good video. Put out something so we can get another 1,000 like we got last week. But you can help us. Go share these videos. Share as many videos as you can. Tell as many people about the show. If we can hit 6,000 by February 9th, my 1-year anniversary, you guys will make me very happy, man.
What's the name of the show that you're going to tomorrow?
Tim Black. T-I-M Black.
Tim Black. I'm going to link it in the chat.
Link it in the chat. All right, folks. Again, I need some progressive women in the house. And just because I like my... Actually, no, I have better. I keep saying I have a better one, and I can't ever find it. Let's see. There's one.
Is it Tim Talks Live?
Tim Cox?
Oh, well, no. It says the name of the YouTube URL is Tim Talks Live. Tim Black.
Tim Black. Yeah, that's him.
Cool.
That's him. All right, let me just play the same thing. I'm like, Tim Cox. That doesn't sound like a show I want to be on. Later, folks. What the hell? It's not replaying. What the hell is going on? That's so not cool. Here we go. There it is.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Lazy mother.
If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.